Alright, well, it's been quite a while, I know. Well, it's been busy. There's a couple streams lately, but welcome back to Cosmic Campfire, finally. Today, I figured we're going to be covering something that's possibly in demand. I mean, I was looking forward to it anyway. It is finally here, at long last, by unpopular demand. With too many ellipses, the official sequel that nobody asked for. Dawn of the Day of the Return of the Night of the Revenge of the sequel of the prequel of the guy from that show who did that thing that one time with the potato and the blood. Part 2 of 7 trilogy. Or, alternatively, BOB.EXE Round 2. Now, I shall get into it. I have not reread the original to refresh myself on it, but I vaguely recall what happened, so that's good enough. Hopefully I enjoy the sequel as much as the original. It was quite funny. It has been a rough estimate of 11 months, 4 weeks, 2 days, 23 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds since the first recorded incident of BOB.EXE Blood. Sounds like a really stupid name for a case, but we called it that because it had BOB.EXE and lots of blood. Even after all that time, the police department still has absolutely no idea what the heck is going on. Either that means we're the most incompetent cops since the last time cops have been depicted in fiction in a negative light, or it means that I'm going to contradict myself later on when I reveal that we do actually have an idea. Maybe both. It all started when we found the victims in a comatose state, lying in a pool of hyper-realistic blood. At first, we thought that it was pretty shocking, but over time we began to realise just how darn repetitive these incidents were getting. Just blood, blood, and more blood! Only one thing was for certain, each victim's computer was broken beyond repair. We were somehow able to conveniently retrieve data, and this data was somehow able to be conveniently interpreted to reveal each computer was playing a game called BOB.EXE. You got all that? No? Well, don't worry, because we're going to repeat that information later on, because I'm sure you have the memory of a goldfish. As I said, we had no idea what was going on, and as I said, I was going to contradict myself by pointing out that we did, in fact, have an idea of what was going on. Or at least one guy did. A whole police force, and just one guy had the slightest clue. His name was Nick, and he was a really good detective. Well, at least a good detective. On second thought, maybe just a competent detective. Never mind, he was really a mediocre detective, but he could achieve some level of competency when teamed up with his sister Laura. Then again, she was a woman. Rather than being some sort of progressive forward thinkers, we were all just a bunch of idiotic sexist dirtbags who never took a female cop seriously. Okay, oh yeah, that's why we denied her access to our secret supply of donuts. Okay. Cops and donuts. That's still a relevant stereotype, right? Meh, I don't know. As I said, we're just incompetent idiots who serve no purpose other than cannon fodder and a lousy excuse for a creepypasta. Except for that one guy, but I'll get to him later. I should know about all of that. After all, I was there. I was there the day the courage of men failed. No, wait, dang it, that's the wrong story to plagiarize. As for Nick and Laura, they're both dead. Spoiler alert, can't let you know that Snape kills Dumbledore. Wait. Sometimes I wonder if I should have helped him. I don't know. Meh. I wasn't really feeling like it. Anyways, maybe we're sniffing around Nick's apartment the other day looking for that's classified. But more importantly, we stumbled upon his secret diary. Apparently he recorded everything he knew about the investigation in this diary. Good grief, he wrote a lot. No, seriously, he wrote a lot. He wrote so much, I don't know who would dare to read this. It's not just lengthy, it's boring. It's like if you took something that had as much substance as The Hobbit and stretched it out into 3 movies, each 3 hours long, and still didn't bother to develop any of the characters or the world, or, for that matter, know what made the original good in the first place. But hey, when you have Benedict Cumberbatch as a dragon and the people will still pay to see it, I know I did. But this story doesn't have Benedict Cumberbatch as a dragon, so going to do you all a favour and skip over 99% of what he wrote to get to the more memorable bits. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two, such as how to not write a creepypasta. Or, for that matter, how to write a trollpasta that is so audaciously blatant in the fact that it is a trollpasta that you still scratch your head when you read all the comments left by people who somehow don't realise it's a trollpasta. It was like Poe's Law strikes again. Maybe we were just too subtle, if you spell subtle with big bold flashing letters spinning against a backdrop of fire and explosions while an orchestra performs a bombastic symphony. But I digress. Here's what Nick wrote. Dear diary. I don't even know why I'm addressing this diary like it's some sort of letter. Apparently that's what they do, I think. People who have diaries, I mean. Which begs the question, why the heck do I have a diary? I'm not some middle school girl writing about her secret crush, last I checked anyway. But my psychologist told me to buy a diary. He said it should help, but I don't know what he means by that. He probably thinks I'm just going to write about my mother. Stupid psychologists. I'm a detective. I have an impressive memory. I don't need a diary to keep track of... Dear diary, sorry about that. I lost track of what I was doing. I promise I won't leave any more unfinished sentences like that in here. It just looks unprofessional. Wait, did I say sorry? Am I apologizing to you? You're just a book. A pair of covers with some paper inside. This whole thing is stupid. But well, I've got to keep doing it. Laura insisted that she was not going to let me ignore this. She says it will help too, and I trust her a lot more than I trust my psychiatrist. To think of it, why do I even see my psychologist if I don't trust him? That kind of defeats the purpose, I think. Anyways, there has been an incident. The boss has assigned Laura and me to investigate. I love the boss. We're old friends. That's why I'm never going to refer to him by name, and I'm just going to keep referring to him by his occupation. I should be heading to the suburbs now to investigate this incident. Something about some guy who lives in his basement. But first, I need to finish this sentence. Remember that promise? Dear diary, okay, I'm not sure what I was expecting because I didn't read the foreword by my boss at the beginning of this story. It wasn't what I saw. The victim was lying in a pool of blood. There was blood everywhere. I don't even know why I'm writing blood in all capital letters, but this blood wasn't normal. It was, how can I describe it, hyper-realistic. I know that doesn't make sense. This is reality. How can something be more realistic than reality? What is real? How do you define real? Electrical signals interpreted by my brain. My lawyers just informed me that the previous few sentences were plagiarized. Ignore that last part. Remember, this story is 100% original. Do not steal. Anyways, when we first saw the victim in the blood, we thought he was dead. We were all set out to bring the body bags when the local paramedic informed us he was merely comatose. He was alive, but his mind wasn't with us that day in his basement. Instead, he looked like he had his soul sucked out of him. Not literally, I mean figuratively. Literally, he looked merely bored. Bored to death levels of boredom. Like, he was stuck reading some overly lengthy, overly cliched story with no redeeming qualities because he was so bored out of his mind that he had absolutely nothing better to do with his life. That kind of boredom. It was Laura who found our first clue. Breathing because he was still alive, obviously, but if you put your ear to his lips, you could just barely hear him whisper these words over and over again. Too much blood. 7.8 out of 10. Laura also found our second clue. The victim was found at his computer desk, the natural habitat of the basement dweller. For whatever reason, the computer was broken. It looked fine, but it simply would not turn on. One of the other cops present at the crime scene shook his head and said, "See, I knew those kinds of websites just downloaded a ton of viruses to your computer." I was curious what kind of websites he visited, for the investigation, not for personal pleasure. We brought the computer back to the station to see if anything could be recovered. Dear diary, the lab boys just got back to us. We sent in a sample of the blood because they have the thing that takes the blood, looks at the DNA in the blood, and answers the age-old question about blood. Whose blood is it anyway? Well, the blood results are in, and we still have no idea whose blood it is. It's not the victim's, that's for certain. Using the magic of science that they learned from Bill Nye, they were somehow able to determine that the computer was not broken by viruses downloaded from certain websites as we had previously suspected, but rather, well, it shut down while he was playing some sort of computer game called BOB.EXE. The only thing we know about it. We were going to investigate further with a Google search, but we got bored and decided to call it a night before heading to the local Dunkin' Donuts. Dear diary, more incidents. Basement dwellers left in boredom like comas with hyper-realistic blood splattered everywhere. Each of them had a broken computer. I think there's a pattern forming here, but I can't quite figure it out. Let's call it a night and go down to the Dunkin' again. In other news, a sergeant just transferred over to our department temporarily. I can't remember his name, but I overheard some of the other cops talking about this guy's practically a legend where he comes from. Dear diary, another day, more blood, another victim. This one's name is Jack. I know I haven't mentioned any of the victims' names until now, but this is for the sake of establishing continuity. But an interesting development. Laura made another discovery. Of course she did. Between the two of us, she's usually the one doing all the work. While our Google search results for BOB.EXE typically resulted in either information about computer viruses or some poorly done fan art of some old video game from the early 90s. Laura found a recent eBay auction. It's a Lego minifigure. I remember playing with Lego sets when I was a kid. This particular one resembled the old classic ones. A plain red shirt, plain blue trousers, and a plain, simple smile, except for the hyper-realistic blood under its eyes. We're currently trying to track the auctioneer. Maybe this could lead to lend us some clues towards our search. Sorry, I need to give my throat a break for a little second before I continue doing the voice. Alright. Dear Diary, we've located the auctioneer, an unemployed man in his 30s named Zach. I was sent to investigate while Laura waited at home. She said that she was anticipating a package in the mail. When I knocked at the door at his residence, I was greeted by an elderly old woman. She scrutinized me with eyes that felt like they pierced right through my soul. And then she turned over her shoulder and screamed, Zach! There's a cop at the door! Young man, have you been spending your unemployment checks on killing annoying singing narrators again? Shut up, Grandma, I heard Zach yell back. A few seconds later, he was at the door. Good grief, this guy looked like he was trapped in the 90s and had given up trying to escape. He grinned at me, though he appeared nervous enough that I suspected his grandmother might have been telling the truth about the narrators. Hello, officer. What's up? I'd just like to ask a few questions, I explained. At his grandmother's insistence, Zach brought me inside. He took me downstairs into his basement, which was filled with tables and shelves adorned with countless Lego models. It was nearly impossible for me to walk around without bumping into something. He also had a radio playing some techno song that sounded vaguely familiar. You've got quite the, impressive collection, I murmured. Zach grinned. I'm a Lego maniac. I can't help it. I've been building with these Danish plastic. Rolling my eyes, I interrupted him before he could give me a lengthy lecture about all the stuff in his collection. Let me ask you something. Have you sold anything from your collection? Well, he replied, I generally keep everything for myself, even the undesirable stuff. This doesn't come cheap, you know. Trust me, if I was addicted to drugs instead of Lego, I'd have a lot more spending money in my pocket. What about this? I asked, handing over a printout of the eBay auction for the BOB.EXE minifigure. Upon seeing the printout, Zach suddenly shuddered as his complexion paled. I tried to expel that from my memory. It was just awful. That game was so bad it broke my computer. I'm still waiting for it to get it fixed. If only I remembered to back it up on the external hard drive before it crashed. I blinked in surprise. Wait, you played BOB.EXE? Yeah, so? He shrugged, unaware that he was the first person we found to have played BOB.EXE without being reduced to a vegetable. What happened? I inquired. What was the game like? Zach sighed. In one word, boring. It was nothing but blood showered in my face in a vain attempt to come across as spooky. BOB.EXE still about 47 minutes and 54.505 seconds of my life that I'll never get back. And you know what was really disappointing? It was the only still functional copy of Lego Universe. When I said that I did not know what Lego Universe was, Zach rolled his eyes and explained to me that it was some massively multiplayer online game that required servers to run. And because the game sold poorly, or at least that's what Lego says, but conspiracy theorists say otherwise, I know, big surprise there, servers were shut down. Apparently BOB.EXE didn't require these servers to run the game. The only good thing about it, continued Zach, was that I got a free minifigure out of it. Yeah, don't ask how that happened, because I honestly have no clue. I didn't want anything to do with it, so I sold it on eBay to make some quick cash, because I know there's a sucker out there who would buy a rare toy. But even that came with a consequence. He showed me the spot on his computer desk where the minifigure had supposedly appeared. There was a stain of what looked like hyper-realistic blood. How do I pull that blood off my desk? Grumbled Zach, no matter how hard I try. Does anyone else know of this? I inquired. Zach shrugged. Not many people, just a few. You know, some ordinary gamers. Okay. Oh, did some ordinary? I think so. Did Some Ordinary Gamers, the YouTube channel, cover the original BOB.EXE? Is this, I think, is this a little shout out that got written into the story? I think so. Alright, brilliant. Do you know how I can reach these gamers? Just threw in a ton of half-hearted references to MLG, Doritos, Mountain Dew, 420, weed, the Illuminati, that kind of stuff, and they'll be bound to find you. Zach didn't know anything more about BOB.EXE, so I decided to call it a day. Just before leaving, I learned how to look at him and asked, "That techno song you were playing on the radio?" Zach grinned. "Oh, that? Yeah, dude, I love that song. It's from 1999, and it's like the last breath of the 90s before the new millennium took over. Man, listening to it sure takes me back." "Who's the artist?" I inquired. "What's the song's name?" Zach said, "Rude Sandstorm." I promptly slammed the door in his face. "Dear Diary, that meeting with Zach got me thinking. Okay, I hear you giggling and snarking. Well, that's a first. Well, shut up. Anyways, even with this new information, I don't feel we're any closer to solving the case. Apparently this BOB.EXE game is circulating around, and it's boring and filled with blood? That doesn't sound like enough to break a computer or to leave its player in a comatose state. Nor does it explain where the hyper-realistic blood or the minifigure came from. It's like a gaping plot hole or something. It could be supernatural, but that's just stupid. I just remembered something. The first victim. He had a collection of Lego sets, modest in comparison to Zach's, but still, so did the second, and the third. Holy crap, how could I have missed this? All the victims had Lego collections. That must explain why they all played some MMO that was intended for little kids, beyond the fact that they were all basement dwellers with little life outside of video games who were probably bored enough to try it. I should talk to Laura about this, bring her up to date on the information I've learned from Zach. I wonder where that minifigure is now. Zach was sure that some sucker would buy it. Shudder to imagine what terrible fate will meet the unfortunate victim who made the winning bid. Wait a second. Laura said she was expecting a package. Oh no, I have to stop her. I should be stopping her, but I remembered I had to come back and finish that previous sentence. Remember that promise I made earlier? I should still be going, but then I had to write that previous sentence explaining why I hadn't gone yet, and now I'm writing the sentence explaining why I wrote that sentence. Damn it, why am I still writing? Okay, fine. As soon as I write the period at the end of the sentence, I'm going. Happy now. Crap, I wrote happy now and had to finish up the question mark before I could leave. And now why the hell am I still writing? Laura! Ahem. Dear Diary. If anyone else reads this, I hope we didn't skip over the past several entries where I did nothing but angst over my failure. Otherwise, it would seem like I didn't care that much about all that happened. I just got back from the hospital. Laura is alive, but only just. Like all the other victims, she's in non-responsive comatose state. Worse, the BOB.EXE minifigure is gone, leaving only a small stain of blood on Laura's desk. One lead and it has mysteriously vanished, taking my sister with it. Damn it, why did it have to be her? The other cops always made fun of her for lacking a Y chromosome, but she could have solved this case on her own. I know she could, I needed her. I can't do it by myself. On the way home from the hospital, I met this strange woman named BOB.EXE. She walked up to me with this peculiar, perpetual smile on her face and said, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Sailor Cthulhu?" Oh, great, cultists. BOB.EXE rambled on and on, spewing false, stupid propaganda for the Church of Cthulhu. Cthulhu, yeah. Cthulhu will rise, she proclaimed, and he shall bless us all with great happiness. He shall bless us, everyone. Everyone, that is, except for the false shepherd who dares to stand in his path and leads us astray. If you are to achieve great happiness, you must follow the teachings of Cthulhu and forsake the world's fourth largest food crop, for they are the instruments of the false shepherd. Remind me to do a Google search of the world's fourth largest food crop. I'm actually genuinely curious. You know what? So am I. I'm going to look this up right now. World's fourth largest food crop. It says I did a Google search and it is apparently the potato, after maize, wheat, and rice. I wonder if potatoes will come up relevant. Anyway, and who is this false shepherd? I asked, rolling my eyes. Although she was grinning, if it were not for the dead serious look in her eyes, I would have been sure that BOB.EXE was joking when she replied, "It is he who bears the name of the Renaissance, he who walks between dreams of titanic proportions, he who preys upon the streets like a wolf, he who calls himself great, even as he chains the unchained, he whom we have cursed to never be awarded by the Academy as punishment for his crimes. I, of course, am referring to..." At that moment, a crazy-looking homeless Bob approaches and asked, "Excuse me, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Saviour, the hovering pasta beast?" Roberta's smile vanished. She looked very annoyed at having been interrupted. "Blasphemy!" she hissed. "You shall not spread propaganda of such tragic travesty, whilst I'm trying to spread the word of Cthulhu." In that time, you could say that, another man walked up, holding a fossilized shell in the air. "Praise Lord Helix!" he proclaimed. Roberta scowled. "Now wait a second." Lord Helix, yes. I mean, that dome, but you know. But it was too late. Representatives from all sorts of different cults had swarmed us, each trying to promote their own agenda, like the cancerous fan bases of hedgehogs, horses, and animatronics fighting for control over deviant art. None of them were quite as memorable as the hovering pasta beast, but there was at one point where some ugly guy wearing a shirt depicting a hyper-realistic starfish with the caption, "Proud representative of Troll Pasta Wiki," began to speak Shrekis. In response, someone else pulled out a gun. "I swear," he said, "if I hear one more person beat that dead donkey under the pretense that it is comedic gold." The Troll Pasta Wiki rep's facial features switches into a very wrinkled grin befitting of the pasta he represented. He started to say love, but was immediately shot dead by the person with the gun. "It was never funny to begin with," he snapped. "Stop it! Just stop it!" I think that's enough internet in real life for me today. Hello? Hello? Are you still there? It's me. No, not Nick, not the boss, not even Zach. The person who wrote the story. I'm temporarily interrupting the pasta to ask you something. Think of it as an intermission. You've somehow made it this far in the story. What are you doing with your life? Stop reading this lousy piece of trash and go do something productive for a change. I'm thinking that what am I doing with my life? Writing this lousy piece of trash anyway. Dear diary, I don't care about being the good cop anymore. If being the bad cop means I'll find whoever did this to Laura, then give me a Q-tip and some nail polish to permanently wipe the good cop away. I don't know who you are, I don't know what you want. I will look for you, I will find you, and I will kill you. Note, my lawyers just informed me that I apparently plagiarized again. I don't care, I fired them. That veteran police sergeant guy saw the whole thing and is now looking at me in a funny way. Fine, let him watch. What could he do? Give me a 0 and flunk me? Dear diarrhea, what the hell? That stupid old fat sergeant just convinced boss that what happened to Laura left me too emotionally compromised to continue the investigation, so they're throwing me off the case. How could he do this to me? I hate that sergeant, I hate boss, I hate you. Okay, maybe I don't hate you, but at the very least I slightly dislike you. Dear diary, sorry for that earlier outburst. The sergeant still can't remember his name, sorry. Just took one look at me, pointed at me and told me to cut it out. I don't even know how that worked, but it did. There was just something about the way he said it, so calm yet so stern. The boss says that he's on my side, and I trust him like a friend. I'm sure that if my life was ever in peril, he'd be the first to help me. Anyway, he told me that it would be best if I took a break from the police work, but he subtly, with big, bold, flashing letters, spinning a backdrop of fire and explosions while an orchestra performed a bombastic symphony, hinted to me that if I continued the investigation on my own, then there was technically nothing he could do to stop me. I'm sure there is some law or something, but I'm not going to look the gift horse in the mouth. Again, if anyone... dear diary, again, if anyone is reading this, I sincerely hope he did not just skip past the past dozen entries where I explained my investigation in excruciating detail. Thanks to my new contact, Wade, or 10-year-old kid is much better with computers than I am, I have finally been able to piece together everything. It turns out that BOB.EXE is a malevolent interdimensional entity that can only access our reality through the game. See, it's interdimensional. That means it's not superstitious, magical nonsense, it's science. Therefore, this whole thing seems a lot more plausible. But that's not all. Remember that Charge of Cthulhu? It turns out that BOB.EXE and Cthulhu are one and the same. Amazing coincidence, right? At this point, BOB.EXE is only strong enough that it can exist in our dimension as a plastic minifigure under the guise of the LEGO Universe mascot, Bob. It's harvesting victims to feed itself so that it may rise to its true potential, that which the cultists call Cthulhu. But wait, there's more. Through the overly convoluted methods I detailed in my previous entry, I was finally able to get my hands on the BOB.EXE CD itself. What I should have done was just smash it to pieces on the spot, but because I'm the idiotic protagonist of a creepypasta, my curiosity got the better of me. I just had to know what it was that left Laura and all those other victims in a comatose state. But the CD in my computer, which loaded a patcher to download the game files, and I started up the game. It brought me to a login screen with a cheerful, bombastic orchestral soundtrack and cute little Lego characters doing silly animations in the background. And in the foreground, there he was, BOB.EXE. He stood next to the Lego login menu, welcoming me to the game. He stared at me through his hinty, pitch-black eyes as he smiled innocently. And as I moved my cursor across the screen, he kept pointing at the login menu, beckoning and inviting me to play in his universe. But there was just one problem. To log in, I needed a Lego.com username and password. I didn't have either, and I wasn't going to ask my parents' permission to get one. With that sense of relief, my stupid curiosity would not get me punished, I shrugged. Whoops, I said, with a smug grin on my face. I guess I can't play the game after all. BOB.EXE's smile vanished, and the facade was shed. In an instant, the entire login screen changed from a bright and idyllic one to a dark, desolate, hellish wasteland splattered with blood. Hyper-realistic blood poured out of BOB.EXE's eyes as his face contorted into a hideous scowl. Oh, come on! He screamed at me, furious that his plan had failed. I was genuinely startled. Even though I already knew the truth about BOB.EXE, I didn't actually expect him to hear me or respond to me. Thinking quickly, I immediately pressed Alt and F4 and exited the desktop before he could crash my computer. As of writing this, I'm constantly checking over my shoulder. That was too close, and I'm almost half expecting that the BOB.EXE minifigure is going to show up in the plastic any second now. So far so good. If that crazy Charge of Cthulhu wants me, they're not going to get me through some stupid game. They're going to have to come see me in person. That was Nick's last journal entry. He wrote this approximately 2 weeks, 6 days, 15 hours, 3 minutes and 14 seconds ago, according to the forensics lab. Today is his birthday, but that really has nothing to do with it. Anything, I just thought I'd mentioned it. I know, he's dead. Whoops, spoiler alert. Can I let you know that Sheik is really Zelda? Dang it, not again. I always wondered why he acted the way he did during his investigation. Not that I was worried or anything, I just didn't care enough to bother to find out why. And to be honest, I still don't care. Especially after getting this email from someone named Wade. It was addressed strictly to Ponty Harry Boss. That's my name, obviously. The email was sent to me, so of course it'd be addressed to me. Not like it's a big shocker. The email contained an attachment. So I opened it, because it always opens strange attachments and strange emails. It was an audio file, so I listened to it. Here is a transcription, because the story obviously hasn't jumped around enough in style and formatting. Recording starts. Obviously, it's not like it could end before it starts, after all. Nick. Guys, seriously, this isn't funny anymore. Let me out. I'm a cop. I'm not supposed to be the one behind bars. I'm the one who puts other people behind bars. Roberta. I think it suits you. After all, we made this cage specifically for you. We call it the Nicolas Cage. A chorus of laughter is heard. We are currently pulling all of our resources into investigating whether the other cultists were actually laughing, or if Roberta just used a cheap laugh track from some 80s sitcom. BOB.EXE, I knew you and your crazy cultists were behind this, but why? You said your cult just wanted to make the world happy. Oh, trust me, we do. However, in our present reality, happiness is not real. It is merely imaginary. But now, we have the power to take that imagination and harness it. Cthulhu will rise again, and he shall bless us with his eldritch masterpiece. It's really quite exciting. Tell me, Nick, do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart? Exciting? This is boring! You think boring countless people with your hyper-realistic blood and cheap cliché tricks is a masterpiece? It's a piece, all right, but not a masterpiece. It's a piece of... Watch your tongue, Nick. Do not defile the sanctity of the Church of Cthulhu. Such foul language. We wouldn't want to upset him now, would we? Upset him? Ha! If you think that would upset him, how about this? Several gasps and murmurs are heard, as if something shocking actually happened, which I sincerely doubt. Whoops, you forgot to put the CD in your computer. Oh, I'm not going to put it in my computer. I'm going to break it. And in doing so, I'm going to prevent anyone from playing BOB.EXE again. He won't be able to pull anyone with his stupid blood and— Hey, wait, bossy, no fair, give that back! You really should have broken the CD while you had the chance, instead of telling us that you were going to do it. But now the CD is ours again. Thank you for delivering it safely to us. Ah, you thought that was the BOB.EXE CD? Think again! That was just a blank CD with BOB.EXE hastily scribbled on it that I brought with me to make a big dramatic show in front of you. You already broke the BOB.EXE CD before you guys kidnapped me, and threw every piece in a fire. More gasps are heard. I think I actually agree with them this time. The protagonist actually did something sensible? Not bad. Was the only still functional copy of LEGO Universe in existence. But didn't you think we would have made backups? No, of course not. Nobody ever thinks to make a backup until the day after they lose all the data. That's how it always works. Roberta, annoyed. Fine, you called my bluff. However, even without LEGO Universe, you have options. Ways of tempting unsuspecting gamers into empowering with LEGO. By giving something they truly desire, something they were so sure they would never be able to play. You don't mean— Yes, I do. Half-Life 2, Episode 2, Chapter 1. You're bluffing again! No, I'm not. Behold, the only known copy of Half-Life 2, Episode 2, Chapter 1 in existence, now blessed with the blood of BOB.EXE. The cultists proclaim praise of BOB.EXE, Cthulhu Lego, hyper-realistic blood, and other such crap. No, you sick bastards! This is going too far. You can't possibly unleash something so dangerous upon an innocent, unsuspecting world. This is too cruel. Well, there is another way. Do you recognize this, Nick? That's the BOB.EXE minifigure! One sack auctioned on eBay! Precisely. Tell me, Nick, everyone must die at some point. How do you wish to die? As a martyr for what you believe in? I would say that would certainly be a most honorable form of death. You can stop us from unleashing Half-Life 2, Episode 2, Chapter 1 upon the world, but you must be willing to sacrifice everything. What the heck are you? Good enough for me. Let the blood ritual commence. The cultists start chanting enthusiastically. Blood ritual? What blood ritual? The blood ritual to endow this plastic toy with the power needed for Cthulhu Lego to fully cross over into our reality in his true form without the need for Half-Life 2, Episode 2, Chapter 1. Through your pain, you will save so many unfortunate basement-dwelling gamers, temporarily at least, and you will be helping our Lord and Savior in his rise to power. You should be honored. Why are you taking off my shoes and socks? What are those? What are you doing? The sound of thousands of tiny plastic objects falling upon the floor is heard. Tell me, Nick. Okay, seriously, how many times has she said that phrase? Have you ever walked barefoot on a carpet covered with Lego bricks before? Nick cries out in terror, but it is too late. The next several minutes of the recording consists of the cultists chanting vigorously as Nick is forced to walk on the Lego bricks, crying out in undiluted pain with every step he takes. Ouch! 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 Quietly at first, there is the sound of a storm wind blowing. It grows louder and louder as Nick continues walking, until it is so loud that it sounds like a tornado, or a hurricane, or a maelstrom. Get it? See what I did there? Because the villain LEGO Universe is called the Maelstrom? Clever, isn't it? No? Never mind. But then, when the winds reach their peak, loud demonic laughter is heard. It's Cthulhu Lego, for he has risen. A voice that sounds like the grinding of bone begins speaking. At this point, through means that would probably drive an actual computer programmer up a wall, the audio file somehow downloaded a hyper-realistic picture to our computers, depicting a hyper-realistic eldritch abomination vaguely resembling the original BOB.EXE minifigure. right down to the familiar hyper-realistic blood dripping from his hyper-realistic eyes, but now far more powerful and demonic and even more hyper-realistic than before, with a writhing mass of hyper-realistic tentacles in lieu of his face and hands, covered with more hyper-realistic blood. The mere sight of this hyper-realistic picture drove the first person writing this transcript insane, so we needed to replace him. And here is a zoom in on the picture while we're here. It very much means that it looks like a Bionicle. It looks like some sort of messed up Bionicle. I like it. Very funny. Don't you see how much fun it is to use your imagination? No, no, no! Yes, Nick. You're at my mercy now. It won't be long before. Wait, what? Gasped Hard among the crowd. It's that police sergeant, Mike Cosgrove. Cosgrove, we meet again for the first time. You dare to interfere? Then you shall die! Cosgrove, very calmly. Cut it out. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The maelstrom winds suddenly end as Cthulhu apparently vanishes. The cultists start murmuring in confusion. Cosgrove grunts in satisfaction. What the? The audio recording abruptly ends. Finally. Well, that was anticlimactic. After hearing this, I've never felt so confused. Nick may never be able to walk again, having been permanently, mentally, and physically scarred by his close encounter with Cthulhu. It left him completely and utterly confused about what the point of all this was supposed to be. He's currently in the hospital in a vain attempt to recover. That said, he and Laura are still alive. Remember when I said earlier they're both dead? I lied. There was nothing I could have done. I'm a useless cop after all. And that sentence was actually lifted directly from the creepypasta we're satirizing. Don't you love it when the jokes write themselves for you? Here's where I would go on in some supposedly awe-inspiring speech about hopes and dreams and how he must never give up the fight against Cthulhu or BOB.EXE or whatever he's called. I lost track since the story doesn't make any sense. But really, all we need is Sergeant Mike Cosgrove to point to people and tell them to cut it out. That'll solve all our problems. But I'm sure you don't believe me. I'm sure you doubt these events ever took place, because that you think of all this as a load of crap. Before you make us the laughing stock of creepypastas, consider the following. How long did it take you to read this story? Because BOB.EXE stole that time from your life, and now you'll never get it back. That's very fun. That's a funny ending. How about we look at the comments on the Troll Pasta page? Yeah, nothing's really... There's nothing really funny there. Fair enough, but overall, I'm not sure if I like this one more or less than the original. It was, I think part of why I maybe didn't enjoy this one as much as I could have is that I'm not as familiar with the actual Sonic.EXE Round 2 that this is satirizing. It was still, obviously, I laughed a fair few times, so I definitely did enjoy myself reading it. It's just, I don't know. I think I prefer the first one because of the absurdity. Like, the absurdity of how insanely specific everything was down to, like, milliseconds and all that. That was a really good running bit. I like there were a couple of callbacks to it without just repeating all the same jokes from the first story. If there's ever a BOB.EXE official remake that's a parody of the Sonic.EXE official remake that the guy was trying to make, I don't know if it's lost media. I don't know if it was deleted or whatnot. But I would be very happy to read like a Bob version of the Sonic.EXE official remake if that were ever to be a thing. Cthulhu is just funny to say, and I'm gonna have to make sure that guy's in the thumbnail. That's pretty kick-ass. Like I said, it's just funny. It's just such a funny image. Like what? Like it's a Bionicle, right? Like this is a Bionicle. This is someone's like digital Bionicle, and I love it. Oh, well, yeah. Anyway. Oh wow, we've been here for almost 40 minutes. I guess, you know, they say time flies when you're having fun. I didn't realize it's been that long. Normally when a story gets long, I'm like noticing how long it's been, but alright, well, if that's the case, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I will see you next time. Goodbye.